Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories in the week. I'm Teniola Shoboale. The headlines. Victims of police brutality share ordeal before the National Human Rights Commission judicial panel in the nation's capital, Abuja. Lagos Judicial Panel playback video of Lekki shooting presented to it by the Lekki Concession Company as more victims testify on their ordeal in the hands of the disbanded SARS. "19 northern governors meet Inspector General of Police over aftermath of End SARS protest. News Round takes off with more tales from victims of police brutality who have been sharing their ordeal before the judicial panel set up by the National Human Rights Commission in the nation's capital, Abuja. Our next report chronicles the testimonies before the NHRC panel.
Victims of police brutality in the nation's capital can now seek justice as the Judicial Panel of Inquiry inaugurated by the National Human Rights Commission begins sitting in Abuja. The Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission highlights the panel's terms of reference.
The panel has been established with the mentioned terms of reference, namely, to investigate allegations of human rights violations and abuse of power made against defunct SARS and other units of the Nigerian police force, to make recommendations as to the damages or compensation payable in relation to any violation of human rights where it deems this necessary in the circumstance, refer any matter of human rights violation requiring prosecution to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, as the case may be.
One of the cases slated for hearing is from Chineye Igwetu, a sister to the late Linda Igwetu, who was cut down in her prime by a bullet from a police officer on July 3rd, 2020. Struggling to hold back tears, Chineye explains the incident that led to her sister's death.
Toby said on their way from Sedi Plaza, they passed that there's a bridge after Sedi Plaza. Immediately, they had a loud sound. So he thought it was his tires. And then he looked at his mirrors and the tire was okay. So immediately my sister was at the back and Arafat is in front. So he said my sister tapped him slowly and was doing like this, like she was gasping for air. So he was like, "What's wrong with you?" And then she was like, she doesn't like, so he turned and then saw her holding, because she was shot under her breast. So he saw her, holding her, and then he saw the car, so he had on the light in the car and then he saw blood all over her clothes. So that's how he knew that it was a gunshot. Gariki Hospital, I said, "Go get blood. She has lost a lot of blood." I'm like, "Okay, can you take my blood? We're same blood group. We don't take blood from women." That's what they told me and Maureen, my neighbor, that night. I can never forget. I'm like, "Why don't you take blood from women? Can I even at least see my sister?" They said she was at the emergency room. So, God.
It's okay. All right. Let us sit down.
Secretary to the panel, Hilary Ogbonna, assures the victims of getting justice.
The Human Rights Commission and the panel will do everything within its mandate and within its resources to ensure that these victims of human rights violations are able to get the justice they deserve.
It's the third day of the sitting of the Independent Investigation Panel on Human Rights Violation by the defunct SARS, and 2 cases are slated for hearing. First is from Mr. Tony Ducci and 7 others. According to their counsel, Barrister Samuel Yusuf, the men of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad arrested, tortured and unlawfully detained them in Abuja despite mistaken identity. They are asking for the sum of 50 million naira as compensation.
People were sleeping in their houses when SARS now came. After Abu had a clash with some of the villagers, they came and broke into their homes and arrested them and took them to Kefi. Under severe torture, they detained them. They kept them in Kefi for 2 weeks. Complainants were not there. So he was attacked. The villagers attacked him. He went back to SARS office and now mobilized SARS and went back to do it. Anybody he found, he arrested them. That is how they came in. The 8 of them. When we asked him to testify in court, in fact, he told the court at the Chief Magistrate Court, Karu, that they were not at the scene of the crime, that the people who beat him and attacked him are at large. So the complainants were being held on holding charge, which is contrary to the provision of the administration of justice. I would no longer keep people. They were held on holding charge until they found out the actual people that beat Abu.
The second case is from Mr. Gabriel Ufoma, whose land documents were seized and hasn't been returned till date.
They accosted him that he's under arrest. He said, what did I do? That his only saving grace is to hand over those documents to him. He can go home free, or they will detain him. So he handed over the document and took photographs of them taking the document from him. If I'm claiming that my land, this is my land, the right thing for me to do is to go to court. I need not seek the services of the police and be victimizing people and be harassing them that I have a land somewhere. So that's just the case of that. And the section 44 of the 1999 Constitution makes it clear it's a violation of human rights of any Nigerian to forcefully take possession of their property, whether movable or immovable, without the order of court.
The panel will resume sitting on Monday, November 16 to more cases. The panel will also announce a date for the inspection of the police detention facilities.
Still on the judicial panel, but this time in Lagos, where drama is taking center stage as the counsel to the government has been opposing the cancel for the SARS protesters, insisting the protesters are not recognized by law. This comes after the panel viewed the footage of the incident from the Lekki Concession Company at its last sitting. The chairperson of the panel granted approval for the 22-hour footage to be played after hearing from the council to the LCC and Lagos State Government.
It's day 4 of the judicial panel set up by the Lagos State Government to look into abuse-related issues by the disbanded SARS. It started with the testimony from Ndukwe Ekekwe. In his testimony, he states that he was arrested on February 16, 2018 at his shop in Alaba.
As they reach my shop, see, as within that kind, around that kind, 8, 9, they go direct to this thing, carry hammer, they break my shop, up my 3 shops. That is a line up. That's when they break up. Immediately when they break up, then they did my front. They settle this thing, they sell my market for my front. So me, I begin to shout, waiting I do them. As I dey shout, where I dey attract people. Now in their commander say 12 in guy make them keep me busy. He give the speak language for them. Now those people force me up from that building.
And then the Lekki shooting, with the managing director of Lekki Concession Company, Yomi Omomuwason, answering questions from the lawyers present.
Who ordered that exhibitor?
Contrary to his previous statements at the Lekki toll gate on Friday, that the CCTV camera worked till Wednesday, October 21st, before the fire.
After the damage, no network, but that was the camera speaking.
Okay, so the last time it functioned was
on the 21st. Like you were seeing in the footage we supplied,
yes,
up to the point where the damage did not occur.
He now says that the camera stopped working from 8 p.m. on October the 20th.
You can still get the footage. It remained there until about some time later in the day, around 8 o'clock, when it was tampered with and we couldn't get any network anymore.
He also says that the lights were not switched off under any instruction, but because members of staff had to close for the day due to the curfew imposed by the state government, there was no one to switch on the lights.
When darkness approaches, people on shift will go and switch on the bulbs, the external bulbs. Otherwise, during the day, it's off.
The panel also rejected LCC's request to take back possession of Lekki Tollgate. The fact that only lawyers representing LCC and the Lagos State government, who fully owns the tollgate, questioned the witness. It became an issue as it was not cross-examined by anyone.
Ordinarily, there should be a petitioner and a respondent, both of which would be different parties, opposing parties. But in this particular instance, we feel that there is the LCC and the Lagos State government. The LCC is 100% owned by the Lagos State government.
In response to this observation, the chairman, retired Justice Doris Okuwobi, called on the public to bring every evidence within its purview, as the panel's role is merely to investigate.
Well, if you care to look into the terms of reference that this panel is charged with, it says to investigate the incident at the Lekki Toll on 20th October 2020 and make necessary findings and recommendations. Anybody that has anything that would assist the investigation is invited to appear before the panel.
Members of the panel arrive. Top on the list is the Lekki shooting, and Mr. Adeshino Ogulano makes appearance for the SARS protesters. His appearance is rejected by the opposing counsel on the grounds that the SARS protesters are not a legal entity.
But we cannot have somebody appearing for a body that is not known to law, that has no leader, no structure.
Mr. Ogulano, however, identifies some representatives of the SARS protesters.
We have Victoria Uleru. We have Dabira. Going to do wonders here. Dabira. Ayuku, AYUKEU. And as well as Perpetual Ibri and Chuku.
At this point, retired Justice Doris Okuwobi rules that Mr. Ogulano's representation will be allowed. The panel proceeds to watch the footage from the CCTV camera. The footage started at 12 a.m. on October the 20th, showing movement of vehicles within the tollgate area, cars parked at different places, a group of protesters scattered around the tollgate. After about 4 hours of watching the Lekki footage, the opposing counsel tells the panel that there is no relevance in watching the footage from the time in question. An argument ensues again, with Mr. Ogulano asking the panel to avail him the footage to watch. Thereafter, the chairman rules on a motion filed by Mr. Ogulano asking for protection, claiming that his life is threatened. She states that there is no evidence to show that his allegations are true. While the panel watched the footage, a small group of students under the aegis of the National Association of Nigerian Students staged a peaceful protest outside the Lagos Court of Arbitration. They say they're protesting the killing of their fellow student Unifade Pelumi, who at the time of his death worked as an intern with Boha TV, an online television station. He was killed on October the 24th, allegedly by the Lagos State Task Force, while covering an attempted burglary by hoodlums at a government facility at Abattoir Okwoba area of Agege. The protesters, however, left shortly after their lawyer addressed them. Victoria Idowu, Channels Television News.
When News Round returns in just a moment, 19 northern governors meet Inspector General of Police over aftermath of SARS protests. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. The rebuilding of Lagos State is now the hot topic as an 8-man Lagos Rebuild Trust Fund committee is set up to oversee the process. The governor also says that a trust fund bill is to be sent to the State Assembly to give legal backing to the initiative.
Mr. Governor, I would like to introduce our government will be sending a bill to the Lagos State House of Assembly for the establishment of a trust fund to rebuild Lagos. However, with the deluge of offers of immediate help and assistance that we have received both locally and internationally, we can no longer wait until when we pass this very important bill. It is expedient that our enumeration, our recovery process, and our rebuilding effort should start as soon as possible. I will be signing an executive order to set up an 8-man Lagos Rebuild Trust Fund Committee, which will, as a matter of urgency, begin to oversee our recovery process. The committee will have a chairman and will have 5 other members from the private sector and 2 from the public sector, including a member from the international donor community. I can assure you of the committee's utmost commitment to the reconstruction and the upgrading of our dear state. In these challenging but interesting times, we realize that we have the potent opportunity to reform our state and to upgrade our structures.
Now to the northern parts of the country, as governors from the region have been meeting the Inspector General of Police and other high-ranking officials of government. The governors at the meeting condemned the hijackers of the SARS protest while pledging support for the Nigerian police force.
This is a gathering of governors from the 19 northern states. The Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, President of the Senate, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, his counterpart from the Federal Capital Territory, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, and traditional rulers from the region. It's a brainstorming session in the Executive Council chamber of the Kaduna State Government House, and issues of insecurity and the SARS protests are top on the list. After the opening protocols, the meeting goes into a closed-door session, and at the end of deliberations, the Governor of Plateau State and Chairman of the Northern Governors Forum gives an insight into some of the resolutions at the gathering.
After extensive deliberations, collectively agreed that traditional rulers be given formal roles in the governance architecture of the country. The meeting rejects and condemns the subversive actions of the SARS protests, the superlative agitations and other change regime actions outside the ballot box soon take advantage of the peaceful protests to push for their separative agenda.
For Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, the meeting could not have come at a better time, as it affords the governors the opportunity to hear from the Inspector General of Police about the nation's security challenges.
We strongly supported the IG, and we hope he'll continue to do his job and expand the footprint and effectiveness of the Nigerian police in accordance with their mandate. We've also taken a position to continue to engage our youths, not to be used by those that have an agenda different from their innocent drive to make Nigeria better.
That this is a meeting.
President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, and the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, also praised the meeting, describing it as a step in the right direction.
The ball is now in our court as leaders from the north to ensure that we engage our youth for productive and positive developments. We should be looking for ways and means of empowering them, giving them the right environment to have jobs, to participate in entrepreneurial developments, something that will keep them busy and have hope and genuine.
The entire objective is that there must be continuous engagement with the governors, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and the youth, of course.
With the SARS protest still very fresh in the minds of Nigerians, the Northern Governors Forum set up 2 committees to further engage the youths as well as civil society organizations on the need to live in peace and constantly interface with government.
News round winds down in the United States, where vote counting continues, but the Trump campaign has filed lawsuits challenging vote counts in the key states of Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
First came the tweet claiming a big win and an alleged attempt to steal the election. Then the press conference where incumbent President Donald Trump claims there is a deliberate attempt by a group of people to overturn his victory.
I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight. And a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people. And we won't stand for it. I want to thank the First Lady, my entire family, and Vice President Pence, Mrs. Pence, for being with us, all 4 of us. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off.
But for his Democratic rival, Joe Biden, it's not over until it is over.
I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote, that it's going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are.
To win the election, each candidate needs at least 270 electoral votes. The eventual winner will lead a nation strained by a pandemic that has killed over 231,000 people and left millions more jobless amid racial tensions and political polarization that only worsened during election campaign.
And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shoboale. Have a lovely weekend.